Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II World at War with our Allied playthrough. In the last episode, we've been very aggressive over here in China, making gains in the middle and countering Japanese aggression to the best of our ability. Our southern offensive here being completely successful. Our most successful operation we've had anywhere in the whole game is getting ready, it's recuperating, getting ready to march up the Chinese coastline and hopefully end up overwhelming the Japanese. Over in France, everything's falling apart. Just everything. It's quite awful. And we're just gonna have to end turn and see how we get treated. We are in April. Next, we're going into May. France historically fell at the end of June 22nd or something, so we're 2 end turn presses away from the historical fall of France. So hopefully we can make it that far, right? British national morale boosted by having Winston Churchill as Prime Minister. Nice. Many of our supply convoys from our colonies and allies pass through the Mediterranean or precariously close to continental Europe. Due to the vital nature of these supplies and the rapid advance of Axis forces through Western Europe, the majority of these routes are now under extreme threat. It's urgently recommended to reroute these convoys as soon as possible. Would you like to reroute the convoys? While the Admiralty confirms that rerouting the convoys will result in reduced overall tonnage, it is still expected to be far more favorable than to continue the convoys within easy range of the enemy, where our losses have the potential to be much greater. Routes that currently cross the Mediterranean would now circumvent the Cape of Good Hope and arrive in Liverpool, while the routes from the Pacific and North America would ship upwards near Iceland through the North Atlantic. Those routes are extremely safe compared to the ones we have, less tonnage or not. Absolutely everything that we've been doing in Europe has been going wrong, so we should probably account for that with our convoys. The German occupation of Denmark presents us with a problem, as if the Germans are given the opportunity to use Iceland as a naval base, then our convoys could become extremely vulnerable to attack. It is therefore strongly recommended that we send an expedition to Iceland to prevent its use by the enemy. This mission, codenamed Operation Fork, will cost 25 MPPs. It will not consist of any significant troop numbers, as only a small number of Royal Marines are available. So while this expedition could not prevent properly organized enemy invasion, it will be sufficient in strength to secure the island. Would you like to order the occupation of Iceland? Saying yes will place Iceland under our control, though with no troops in it. Reykjavik could then be put to good use as an air and naval base to assist us in the Battle of the Atlantic. And in January 1942, we'll have the opportunity to deploy a unit of maritime bombers here. 25 MPPs for this seems fantastic. And unlike, the Irish ports, this doesn't have the chance of moving anybody against us. And in fact, I think later in the war, the UK just kind of hands all this off to America as well. I will go ahead and say yes to this. This seems like a good idea. Operation Fork is launched, and Reykjavik is, I believe, now in the Allies. Red Army headquarters. Following our conflict with Finland, it has become apparent that our soldiers are under-equipped for winter warfare. As a result, they suffered significant losses. Given that the Axis powers is virtually inevitable, it would be useful for us to take advantage of our recent experiences to better prepare the Red Army for winter warfare. If we set a process in motion now, we can provide winter clothing and equipment to our forces for just 50 MPPs. Through this investment, we will avoid suffering unduly from sicknesses during winter when we are next at war. Would you like to prepare the Red Army to fight more effectively during the winter? Red Army did learn its lessons of the Winter War, and so it was better able to survive the winter campaigns of the Great Patriotic War. But it was only through investing in the Army's equipment that this was the case. It is strongly recommended to say yes to this, as that will give your forces an edge over Axis units during the first winter of the coming conflict. Of course I will say yes to this. Even though war with the Axis powers was not virtually inevitable, the Soviets thought they were going to join the Axis, so dev bias, research your history a little bit better, thank you. British Royal Marines occupy Iceland. Iceland prepares for war. Okay. Axis raiders disrupt Canada-UK convoy. Still, there's still stuff out there, huh? Progress in research and development for the UK. That Canadian stuff being a little bit intercepted, unfortunately. Otherwise, yeah, look, you can see we already have reduced income as the UK, and even from India sending their convoys, which is unfortunate. But everything else is going very well. Now we get to see how the Axis are going to kick our butts this turn. France is going to suffer big time. Uh-oh. Alright, we got to zoom in. I was zoomed out. Enemy contact. They actually sailed out. It's a very successful contact for us. Thank you very much. Italy, Mussolini, any win that I can get anywhere near Europe is a great morale booster to me. Because things have just been going terribly here. And there's another one that march out. And we're still doing very well. Oh, thank God it's a destroyer that ran into that. The Italian Navy is coming to fight the French Navy. They are actually marching out to fight the French Navy. Hopefully the French Navy can give us some good usage. Interceptors from the carriers are setting out and assisting us. The French interceptors, despite being almost dead and having no morale, are protecting the southern flank. More Royal Carrier Air Forces are getting very hurt while defending the front line, but hopefully to good effect. Defensive anti-air fire from the anti-air, but only one of it. It's very limited, it seems. Oh no, here's another one. Very good, very nice. I'm very happy to see that all this enemy air is not going very well. They actually marched the tank forward. I didn't think they'd be so ballsy, but there you have it. Oh man, they're hitting us heavy in the north. All right. Woo! We have a lot to talk about once this is over. Further pushing, yep, they're swapping things in and out. One of the BEF cores are now dead. Interesting direction they've chosen to take this. Now they're focusing very heavy on those engineers, which are probably as good as dead at this point. The Italians are marching forward. Okay. Continued Japanese pushing. I'm quite amazed how ballsy they're being, but it's... Oh god, the paratroopers have landed behind us. Holy shit. God, France is falling apart. I made every wrong decision in France. I made every wrong decision in France, dude. I need those armies off the Maginot. What have I done? French morale falls as Germans approach Paris. Yeah, I'm sorry. Germany amends its Norwegian convoy routes to protect its ore supplies. Iceland joins the Allies. Hell yeah. Maybe that's more money as well. Calculating supply. I hate Europe. Second British Corps destroyed. I hate Europe. I hate it so much. I hate it so much when we have some things that we can deploy, including a French heavy tank unit. That's not going to save us. France is as good as dead. I made every wrong decision. You're going to hear me complaining about that. It's entirely my fault. It's entirely my fault. We could have lasted longer. We could have. But we won't. The good news is, it's May. We're almost at the point where France historically falls. Meaning, at the very least, even with all my mistakes, we are playing to history. I think that's quite amazing. Oh yeah, they amended that naval route. See, this is where I tried to blockade them, and this was a huge mistake. I know it's dangerous to get over here now. Very dangerous. So our chances to raid them are pretty much past. Our naval units are going to have to be deployed elsewhere from here on out. The line here is just crumbling. We're definitely going to have to pull this HQ out at the very least by the end of this, that's for sure. Not sure how much longer the French can live. I think if we live one more turn, like if we can make it to the next turn, we have survived the historical period of time. If we fall on the next turn, you know, that sucks. But at the very least, we somehow seem to be living the historical amount of time, you know, for whatever that's worth. The South is amazingly holding, although the Italians look like they're about to slip past Lyon, which is highly unfortunate. Yeah, France is as good as dead. And sadly, there's not much I can do about that. With the timing of the historical fall of Paris and France, one end turn click away, one axis movement away, we have to stop lamenting in the knowledge that France will fall and instead start doing something to see if we might be able to put it off one more turn. Now, I think it's obvious the Brits have no purpose staying here. Losing an HQ is definitely not worth it. Look, how much does an HQ cost? 504 MPPs. That's worse than losing an army, which we already have lost an army and a corps, but was it for the benefit? We'll find out. Well, first thing I'm going to do, actually, here, is we're going to go park the Ark Royal Carrier away, because its planes need some help. We are also going to go park the Glorious Carrier away, and just leave the Courageous Carrier on defensive duty for the time being. The Coastal Command fighters still need to escape, so escape they shall. They are in absolutely no position to be engaging in fucking anything, however. The HQ here is going to get on transports. 51 MPP to transport. Well, you did your best. Your job's done. It's time to leave. So let's see. I guess we'll just sail back here to Plymouth. And then we'll walk our way wherever else is better to walk. Maybe probably up towards like Manchester or Birmingham or something like that. Because we're gonna have some stuff to do. I'm so sad to just pull this out of here, but France is gonna fall. The Brits might as well not get stuck here if they can help it. We're gonna run the first corps over to Le Havre, which their mobility certainly helped them get there. We cannot currently transport them, so they're just gonna have to stay where they are for the time being. Next, as for these special forces, I was thinking of operating them, but I don't think it's actually going to be that important. The thing that needs to happen the most is they need to reach some semblance of a front line right now, somewhere around Paris at the very least. I'm not exactly sure where to do that, but as of right now, a line is technically being held around Paris that we're going to try to take advantage of. Move up just south as far as we can get them in their current status, just south of Le Havre, where the remaining British are. We are obviously going to reinforce the first corps here, who are probably going to die, if I'm being honest. But, yeah. The engineers did their job. The fortification held the line and is allowing maybe one British corps to escape, but there is no reason to keep this engineer here any longer. At the very least, yeah, there's no gain. All this serves to do right now is die. I can reinforce it and have it die, but I'm probably going to move it south. Let me just look at the situation a little bit before I make that decision. We have a number of problems creeping up in France, problems that we're not really going to be able to do anything about. The first thing we will try to do, however, is move a corps to ideally deal with this paratrooper unit. I'm not 100% on what... Okay, so this is the safest way to do it. Not for Paris, but for the corps and the attack in general. The paratrooper did land back here, brazen little bastard as he may be. However, he's alone. So let's attack with this corps. Alright, with that, we've attacked. We have also abandoned Nancy as a result. Unfortunate, but it could not really be helped. Oh, and we can still move from here even after doing that attack. Well, you know what? I think I just might, because the backside of Paris could probably use someone standing there more than the backside of Chalons. Of course, Chalons has its own problems. Even though it's not going to be perfect, there is the matter that we do need to deal with this paratrooper. So I will go ahead and take the second corps and attack the paratrooper with the second corps, suffering 1 damage, dealing 2. We're going to go ahead and reinforce the reserve corps here. All the meanwhile, the entrenchments here are still like bare minimum. Defending Paris with this is just almost pathetic. We're going to go and switch up the Polish corps into their spot and attack the FSJ paratroopers, which is left one man defending with no supply, no readiness, no morale. I don't think that is too much more of a threat, but either way, the chances of Paris living through this are all very, very slim. We're going to take these engineers rather than actually piece them back together again, which serves no purpose. They can just go around. We're going to send them south here into this field. This will serve to be a blocker leading towards Paris. This will serve to be a protection for the nearby Brits, and maybe even a protection for the special forces, which may yet get to see some action. It is becoming immeasurably safer for these planes right about now to retreat, not just for their own safety, actually not for their safety at all, but for the hope that even with every mistake I've made, we might make France last a little bit longer. So the tactical bombers are going to fly over here behind the front line, and they're going to chill right there, helping body block around Paris. The fighters themselves are going to go a little bit further back. Let's go ahead and put them at Caen. There's no chance to realistically repair them into a position where they can do a whole lot, but Paris must survive. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to reinforce the HQ on Paris to get it a little bit more survivability. The brand new Hunziger HQ, which is like barely entrenched at all. We'll also go ahead and reinforce this HQ at Chalons, which I don't even know how it took damage, probably to the paratroopers realistically. They're as good as dead. If they don't die from attrition, they'll die from their own attacks. They're stuck, they're out of everything. I don't expect them to survive so long as Paris survives, but I don't expect Paris to survive either, so I don't really know what I expect, to be honest. In the meantime, yeah, there's no more reinforcements we can do up here, but there are some things we can do to maybe get a little more value out of the French. Now, I'm willing to bet that if I step one thing off the Maginot and a German steps on the Maginot, that will lead to unspeakable doom and horror of events that will plummet the French national morale. We don't need to have that happen any more than it already has. There is one target that could potentially be considered weak on the side facing the Maginot, and that is the Slovakian Corps, because number one, it is Slovakian, and because number two, it's sitting on this mine, and it's only gotten one turn to entrench so far. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to attack that right here with the first army. Now we're going to attack it. Ooh, actually, you know what? I'm going to save that. Hold up. So we're actually going to swap the 5th army with the 1st army. The 5th army is going to attack next. There you go. Took 2 damage, dealt 1 or 2. Not the best, but it's okay. They don't have the forces over here to try to force through the Maginot. They're going to take the faster way and go through Paris. If I could trick them into going for the Maginot itself, I'd take that. We're also going to strike out for Metz, dealing 2 more damage and taking none. Alright, 5 damage to a Slovakian Corps, even though they're probably going to pillage like 1,000 MPPs the moment they step on Paris. As much damage as we can do will help us in the long run. Even though it probably has no purpose with this remaining MPP. We want to spend it somewhere. No idea where. You know what? If it's mostly purposeless. Let's go ahead and get the Djibouti garrison up to full strength. And we have 10 remaining, which I would like to put into the Algiers force here. Again, I don't know if they're guaranteed to make Vichy or not. If they don't do it, I believe the fight will continue in Algeria, but knowing that it's AI, they probably will do it. Now, the Italian Navy has decided that we look tasty, and they want to fight us. So, a fight they shall get. First and foremost, there's very little that we have here that's good at fighting an enemy sub. Destroyers come to mind, but you know what else comes to mind, actually? A sub. A sub would actually be pretty decent at it. Why is the sub just trying to path right through an enemy ship? You're stupid. You're dumb. Let's start with the destroyer. Let's just start with the destroyer that's right here. Let's go ahead and try to do some ASW operations. Lo and behold, what do you know? Those operations did not really go the greatest. Let's go ahead and go park this in port, maybe. We're also going to want to get this guy in port, is the thing. There's a lot of ports that we can actually use up here, mind you. I don't understand a lot of the paths that our ships here are trying to take. This, if it's a zone of, oh, okay, navies don't have zone of control. Still, I don't think you can go through a unit. Just saying. Maybe you can. Maybe I'm wrong. If you're pathing it, then I guess I'm just wrong. Let's move you out of this zone of control. Let's move you into the zone of control and attack again. Alright, 2 damage taken, 1 damage dealt. Not the greatest, but you know what? This is a French fleet. French fleet's not going to exist soon. So who the fuck cares? Let's see. We're going to take the sub now. I can't wait to see how this works. You know what? Does this work? It does work. Holy fuck. Oh, we can't initiate ASW operations like this. Or sub on sub. It has to probably just be automatic. Well, isn't that a damn fucking shame? Fine, we'll go take the sub and use it to attack the enemy heavy cruiser. 2 damage delivered, and very little taken. You're going to sit there for right now. And we have more stuff to do in the meantime, so... We have to also do this while knowing that there's a submarine right here, so that's just not going to be the easiest. But we can walk right up at the Province battleship, attack the enemy light cruiser, and voila! 450 morale for the French, not that that's going to help them survive the fall of Paris. And we have killed another ship. Now there is more Italian ships here to kill, mind you. Let's go ahead and get the Dunkirk battleship back in here. And let's get the Paris battleship moving up as well. Let's attack with the Paris battleship, and voila! 500 national morale bonus, heavy cruiser wiped out, and just 1 damage taken. That's pretty nice. That's pretty good. Let's go dock those battleships that are injured, or the ones that can get that far. Anyway. Move you out of the way. You will go as far as you can get. You will also retreat as far as you can get. They know we're here, so that's not too concerning. We just kind of need somewhat of a shield. You will go dock in the meantime as well. And we're just going to stay in your zone of control with the submarine. And that those right there are the actions of the French Navy. Not a whole lot that will help us in the long run, but hopefully it's something. Now, turning our attention to the Brits, there's a whole lot we have to do. Before I forget it, I've noticed there's like 2 different submarines on this path right here. I'm gonna go after them. Okay, enemy contact. Submarine discovered. Okay, cool. Well, alright, they're not shooting each other. That's sad. But we have the Canadian destroyer here, which is better than nothing. We're gonna go sail that out and attack the German submarine. It dives from the attack. I think that means it escaped. I think that's what that means. I think that means it escaped. Oh, I found it. Yeah, it died from the attack and actually moved away. That's interesting. We can also get the Bulldog destroyer headed up here as well, because we know there's another submarine somewhere out here, and destroyers are the best we have against that, and our current fleet operations of raiding are now no longer really necessary. We're not going to hug Denmark and let the Germans shoot us for free, especially now I know how devastating land air can be against naval forces. So we're going to want to unify the fleet more. We're also going to want to do some repairs on things that are waiting for repairs. So repair all these ships that we put away for repairs the prior term. We can't do that with all the things. We can also go ahead and repair the TAC bombers and the Strat bombers, which could come under German fire, which is why I deem this worth my time. We can get another destroyer heading down here to engage the enemies, but this battle cruiser and these 2 heavy cruisers, they need to go somewhere else. I don't really know what to do exactly with the British fleet as things stand, because I can't hug this anymore, not even remotely. Hugging it in the first place was bad. I should have just raided from up here. But the German fleet will see that as an opportunity, I'm sure. So we do need to standardize things a little bit here. So this battle cruiser, yeah, we're going to have to start putting things in port, or we're going to have to start actually moving them. The more I look at this, the more I think of this. So I'm going to take the 2 heavy cruisers, and I'm going to go put them in the docks at Scapa Flow so they can be ready to respond to enemy threats. The destroyer up here is also going to go around to our supply line, where it could potentially perform some ASW action. The Hood battle cruiser that's in the rear is going to go and take some refuge over at Glasgow, using this port for safety. We're placing them in places where we could respond to any German threat that arrives, and regularly do patrols as well. And to that effect, with the current situation, I am going to cruise mode the Nelson battleship and send it all the way back to where it will be safest, over at Liverpool. I have to stop right-clicking. That's so unnecessary. This screen, I might keep here for a while longer, but the rest of this stuff just has to move. This heavy cruiser will go dock by Newcastle in the meantime. We do need to keep the channel clear, so we do need to keep ships in the area. That is one thing to note. That is one thing of concern. The Cumberland heavy cruiser, which has only more recently arrived, is going to go dock over by Cardiff. The renowned battle cruiser will go dock at Plymouth, and the Mohawk destroyer here is going to go take up a position where it can intercept and keep up with any incoming submarine-style threats, moving ahead and performing a much smaller screen than I have over here with the light cruisers and such. But if I do lure out any German heavy cruisers or anything like that, I would consider that an absolute win if I could destroy them. Our ships, our navy, will surpass them, and I believe we're going to get some free ships as well, which is very handy. The HQ we dropped off over here cannot actually move very much, but we'll go ahead and move him the one space he can. Again, probably go park him over at Birmingham. We can also replace Lord Gort here with a better commander like Montgomery, but I mean, if we're lucky, they're not going to invade any of this to begin with. The Rupert Fort Special Forces need to get moving, because they don't need to be up in Scotland. If the Germans are going to navally invade, they're not going to navally invade Scotland. I'm not going to spend the points to operationally move them, so they have trucks anyway. We're going to go ahead and just calmly, steadily start moving them down south, where they could help protect the area around London. We don't fully know what we're walking to down here in Ethiopia and Somaliland, so let's step up the Sudan Defense Corps a little bit more to take a look. Alright, so we know they have a garrison there. As much as I'd love to just go take that, I do wonder what they have down here by Gondar, because I would love to get the HQ to move a little bit closer. But without proper intel, it's not possible to tell. I can't even see. Can't even see. There could be enemy units in these mountains that are going to come out and attack my HQ for all I know. And the supply here is not going to be the greatest. Whatever, let's just risk it. Let's get the HQ moving forward. It's going to have to support the Sudan Defense Force Corps, which is going to be the Sudan Offense Force Corps at this rate. We're going to go ahead and we're going to try to cut off, we're going to cut off this garrison from any roads, making it have to rely on the supplies here, and hopefully that helps us. We're going to move up the second corps here. And I mean, attacks here don't look like they're going to go particularly well now, do they? I will go ahead and attack nonetheless. We dealt nothing and we took nothing, so that's quite a situation. We'll go ahead and move this HQ up into the nearby town. It should be safe there for the time being. Fighting here is probably not going to be very eventful. Now we take a look in Egypt. So we've gotten the corps up with the army. We're going to go ahead and take the corps. We're going to move it over here into the desert, where it'll hopefully start entrenching as well. We're going to play on the defense here for the time being. We don't necessarily have troops to make an offense. We have fully maxed out this desert field artillery, so let's get it moving up just normally with its mobility, with its trucks. We're going to want to position it behind these two units so it can provide fire support and make this a bit impassable, ideally. The rest are going to want to get closer to the HQ in Alexandria so that they can receive some more supply. So let's take the tactical bombers here. Let's actually move them. Let's say we move them just out of the way, just a little bit out of the way. That's all we really need to do. As for the others, we'll go ahead and fly the fighters over to this side of the marsh because they can get over there pretty easily and away from there pretty easily. The anti-tank will move up right next to Alexandria, and the recon will move right into the Suez town, where they will be able to receive reinforcements next turn, hopefully with the improved supply we're dealing with. No Italians pushing out just yet, which is actually pretty nice. There's a hell of a lot of things that I can spend the current UK points on, and a lot of it is actually probably not worth my time. One thing I will do is I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the garrison sitting on London with some anti-aircraft defense, because once the Germans take this over, they may begin some air raids. I expect them to just start bum rushing eastwards, doing whatever comes next, taking Yugoslavia, getting these guys in the Axis, preparing to push on to the USSR. The USSR will have to just deal with that. In the meantime, the UK should prepare for air raids. Speaking of, actually, we do have the Birmingham number 11 fighters that we can deploy. We'll deploy that just south of Birmingham. And in fact, we'll take the Coastal Command fighters, and we're actually just going to rush them north towards Newcastle, just so that there's less chance that they die. Especially now that we have these fighters here, and these fighters are also upgraded. There's also a French tank, heavy tanks, that we can deploy near Paris. Maybe I should have put them more like here. I still can, actually. It's not too late for that. They probably can't attack right now, which is unfortunate. We'll go ahead and we'll move these tactical bombers. And we'll just move them a little bit out of harm's way for right now. Let's deploy these heavy tanks right there. Yep. Yeah, they're not going to be able to move, but they're here. Heavy tanks. Maybe they'll see some kind of action, but realistically, if I was the Germans, I would wipe out this corps. I would destroy the HQ at Paris. I would take it and fuck everything else, because everything else will stop existing after that point, pretty much. As for the Americans, as I was saying, a big problem we're going to have is with our infantry. And if we look at the production right now, what are we getting? We're making a garrison. Oh, we're getting some infantry. This is an army. We have some infantry right now. We're going to get a lot of fucking boats. Something that's probably actually most important as the Americans, now that I think about it, really is the naval capabilities, probably more than anything. Because I'm thinking of taking places, but what is America going to be most needed for against the Japanese? Their navy, not the land forces. Hell, I could have the Australians do that part, no problem. So we're actually going to go ahead. I was going to do, this is the wrong country. As America, I was going to do infantry warfare. Oh, America's actually already researching naval weaponry, but there must be something else we can do with that. Alright, I know what we can do with that. There's two researchers that could come in handy, aerial warfare and naval warfare. Both of these would highly assist our carrier operations, which are going to be pretty important. So let's go ahead and get both of those, pouring another 200 MPPs into research, so we have plenty of research going already as is. Let's get this core and continue moving it down to where it could transition to Beaver next turn, and waiting for the garrison before we transition anything else. Well, realistically, we could transition one thing. Let's start bringing the second army further south and just keep one army on DC itself for the time being. I don't believe, they're not in the war. We're not expecting an attack anytime soon, so that should be fine. Looking at the Indians, we have a little more room for research, and the Indians are exceedingly safe, again, for the time being, especially with China kicking ass. We'll go ahead and research command and control, because India will get a free HQ and some free infantry units, and this could help them function a little bit better together. It's 125 MPPs, we're up to 1400, so technically we can afford one thing that's of 100. Whether we do that or not is to be seen when we get more points. However, I believe that's all we have for this episode. That brings us down to the final front over on China, so that's what we're going to be dealing with. My favorite front, the front that goes well literally like every single turn. Oh, it'll be so sad to see France die maybe next episode, but I believe we can win this. Do you believe we can win this? Let me know in the comments below. I believe we can win this. But for now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.